Yeah, thanks for having me on here. You can't get rid of me. I'm just going to be here every single year.
I know, that's how it works. Well, listen, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming back. And I love having you on the show to find out what's going on. WeWALK, of course, Smart Cane 2, the return of the killer cane.
Yep. I wouldn't. That's not in our marketing material. We do not call it a killer. Actually, we're trying to do quite the opposite. We're
Okay,
trying to
you
make sure
don't want people... Right, okay, I get it. I think it sounds good in posters, doesn't it?
No, Return of the Caring Cane. Let's
caring
go with
cane.
that.
Right.
Exactly,
Fine,
yeah. Your
okay.
caring companion.
You guys workshop it and figure it out. Let me know at the end. But listen, tell us about the WeWALK Smart Cane 2. How's it going? Because it's now launched, it's now available, people are buying it, people are talking about it. What's your take on what people are telling you?
Well, I'm going to give you a slightly biased opinion, not just because obviously I work for WeWALK, but because I actually use one and I've got mine quite literally right in front of me right
here,
now.
yeah.
But no, it's a great device. I think the user feedback we got from Smart Cane 1 was very much justified. I mean, it was our Gen 1 product. We wanted to bring all the great features of obstacle detection and smartphone connectivity to light in our first version, which we did. But of course, just given how quickly technology moves, technology at the time just wasn't as small as we wanted it to be to get to the form factor that we wanted. And so with Smart Cane 2, we were finally able to address all of that feedback, again, thanks to how far technology has come, thanks to us also upskilling and just learning a lot. And it's really been going great. When we launched Smart Cane 2 in January, of course, it's the first gen of a second gen product. So we were very much so boots on the ground, really working closely with our partner organizations and our first adopters of Smart Cane 2 to iron out any bugs. And we're now at a place where we're, quite confident, and it's just such a great day-to-day tool. So as a recap, Smart Cane 2, world's first smart cane to look and feel like a traditional white cane. It packs in obstacle detection, a flashlight. You can connect it to your smartphone to get navigation and exploration. And we're even trialing the implementation of GPT and sort of having an AI voice assistant that you can talk to built into your cane. So big leaps forward from our first version.
Sean, have you tried this cane?
I haven't, no. I was just thinking, how long has it actually been available now?
So Smart Cane 2 has been available since January, and Smart Cane 1's been around for a couple of years now, since 2020.
Yeah, I remember. But has there been any updates since the release of the Gen 2?
Lots of software and firmware updates, which are all free of charge, which all happen over the air. So you wouldn't even know it. You just connect up your Smart Cane, it says, here's an update, and you update it. So the hardware has remained largely the same. But we've made lots of these little, again, behind-the-scenes software tweaks. I will say one thing, which is, again, a testament to just how closely we work with the community. We did change our packaging. So when we first shipped out Smart Cane 2 units, they'd kind of come disassembled. You wouldn't have an easy-to-access instruction manual in the box. But thanks to, again, feedback from our wonderful partners at Sight and Sound Technology, RNIB, Guide Dogs UK, and just a whole long list of them, we've improved the box design. It now comes attached. It even has the manual stuck inside it. So we've made these little, quality of life improvements to make sure that even though we've just launched it, it's still getting better and better.
And what's the feedback from the users of the cane? Are they saying they like a particular feature over another one, or is it just the general feel of it? Because the design was different from the Gen 1, right, as you mentioned before.
Yeah. I think the first thing that strikes people really is that design. I mean, 60 or 50% of the time, again, completely made up number here, but that's sort of how we'd expect you to be using your WeWALK. Think of it. You're sort of waking up in the morning, going to the grocery store. It's a familiar journey. You don't necessarily pull out your mapping apps to do that. But we kind of wanted to give people a device that doesn't compromise that fundamental experience. You can still use WeWALK like a normal cane and forget about the smart features. And I think that's one of the really positive feedbacks that users gave us, in the sense that I can still use it even though I don't want to use it. It's an interesting paradox.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the obstacle detection, I think, has been a real favorite here. So we've really refined the obstacle detection with Smart Cane 2, and we consider it genuinely to be one of the most advanced obstacle detection systems out there in general, in the sense that it's a very narrow beam. It only detects things that you'll walk into in your cane swipe. So say it picks up and beeps or vibrates on the left-hand side. You know that there's something on the left. You can use it to shoreline. It's that specific. But if you get no more detection in the mid-swipe, when you're in the middle of your swipe, then you know it's clear to walk. That's how sort of accurate we were able to get it. You can use it to detect revolving doors, sort of how far the door is within its revolution. You can detect when a lift door opens even. So that level of detection has been really praised by users. One of them, for instance, who is part of our clients through our Guide Dogs UK project, just said ever since I've been using my WeWALK smart cane, don't think I've had anything touch my face or head. And of course, people also like the navigation and AI features. I think especially with the AI, we're still learning what you can do with it. So people are finding weird and wacky ways. Sometimes we'd ask WeWALK simple questions like, where are we? Or we can ask it crazy things like, how can I make a chocolate chip cookie? Why would you want to know that while you're at a bus stop? I have no idea.
Why
But
not?
you can. That's what I'm saying. So you can, which is great.
Now, I for full disclosure, you're going to be sending me one of your WeWalk Smart Cane 2s
Yes.
to actually test and review.
Yep.
I cannot wait to get hands-on with it, and we're going to try and get together at some point so you can get a shot as well.
Yep.
Because I think it would be really good for you to try it. I mean, I think for me, it's going to be about it's always the overhead stuff, isn't it? It's always
Yep.
those overhead branches which I'm forever face planting most days of my life because people haven't cut their bushes back or their hedges back, and that's just the way it goes. But like you say, going further than that, knowing when a lift door is open, being able to identify doorways, perhaps that could be really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can. I mean, it's sensitive enough, especially on the short setting for the obstacle detection. You've got 3 settings, but the short setting, you've got that level of precision where you can actually find doors. Even again, going back to that Guide Dogs project, since we have our VRS service who's actually implementing canes and actually teaching people how to use WeWalks who are waiting for Guide Dogs. So they're being very technical with our cane and using that obstacle detection to find shorelines. So instead of bashing your cane against a solid wall, you can just use the beeps of the detection every time you're in your left or right swipe to find out where it is. So again, constantly coming up with new ways to use that obstacle detection.
I want to ask you a little bit about there's one aspect of WeWalk which for a lot of orientation and mobility instructors can be really useful, and I wanted you to explain this a little bit for me, because we touched on it the last time you were on the show, but it didn't quite catch me at that moment. I kind of had a chance to think about it, and it was really interesting. Essentially, it's a software built into the cane which can track the movement of the cane, and then someone who's, say, an orientation and mobility instructor can then use that information to almost assess a client, to say how well they've walked, how well they've been getting out and about, how they've been moving around.
Yeah.
Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, no, you have. You hit the nail on the head there. And I'm glad you picked up on that, because that's, again, one of the novel features which you can sort of do with a smart cane platform. And granted, when we first made smart cane, we had no idea we were going to build something like this. It's just kind of how technology lends itself. But yeah, one of the key things we found out very early on, I mean, this was back in the smart cane 1 days, is that, look, number one, you're not replacing the cane. We're never going to do that. But number 2, it's so important to be in tune with teaching and O&M specialists who are the gatekeepers to our community. We love O&M specialists. You need them to go through, you need them to sort of become independent. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, the data that they've had to rely on has been quite outdated, or it's very sort of qualitative. You sort of have to rely on users telling you, well, okay, I've gone out today. And you just don't really know if that's true. And oftentimes it's just positive reaffirmation. Whereas with us, we're like, okay, wait a minute. We've got a bunch of sensors here. We've got the inertial measurement unit on WeWalk Smart Cane. Why don't we use that data for good? Why don't we look at things like the way the cane's being moved? And when we asked O&Ms what data they wanted, we found out that actually a lot of that data, with a bit of mathematical trickery here and there, can actually be pulled out from the data we can pull from the cane. For example, posture. A good indication of posture is the angle the cane makes to the ground up to your shoulder blade. And we can measure the angle that cane makes. And of course, because we have different sized canes that adapt to different size heights, that angle kind of stays the same, even if you're tall and if you're short. So we can kind of tell if a person's leaning too much to the left or right with the way the angle changes. On top of that, we can tell if a user is confident or not in an environment by how far away they go from their center block. So think of it, when you're walking, you're very confident. You tend not to have very wide swipes, which is the way you should be. You should only really be swiping sort of within where your feet are, within the boundaries of your feet. Whereas if you're not confident, that kind of degrades a bit, and you start swiping really wide to kind of pick up things that are sort of, that might
That's true, yeah.
you might walk into. And again, that's not a good technique, because you might just walk straight into a pole or a tree branch if you do that. And that's again information that we can pull up through pendulum motion from the smart cane. So again. And it's fine, all the mathematical stuff is really cool. But we also, dial it back and ask really simple questions in that AIM system, such as, how far have you walked today? Or how long have you spent outdoors? Or how confident are you feeling? We're essentially empowering mobility trainers and teachers with data that they haven't had before. And again, just like with all our other features, we're still learning. So we're still sort of understanding just how far we can push this and just how revolutionary it can be for our community.
Could you almost take this, I mean, I'm sorry, O&M instructors, but could you also take this to almost an in-app O&M training experience as well using that technology?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think so. I think, O&M is such a deeply personal thing, and the trainers really are the key here. Everyone has individual needs, and I don't think no matter how good AI gets, I don't think you're ever going to be able to replace that deep personal one-to-one bond and understanding that you would make with your mobility instructor. I think for us, just like with the standard cane, we don't replace. We really just empower, and we try to fill in gaps. So for instance, just like with Smart Cane 1, most of it's just a standard cane shaft. We've just changed the handle and made it a bit better. Same with O&M. The O&M trainer is still the key here. We're just giving them better data to make more actionable choices.
But there's a flip side to that, isn't there? Which is, I think about people who live, say, in highland areas or rural areas, especially our listeners across Canada. There are many parts that are remote that trying to get an O&M instructor to that person might be challenging in a town or an area where there's very few people, especially few blind people.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of flip side to that, where, maybe not an app necessarily, but a remote support tool for O&M.
Exactly. Actually, that's one of the things we're pitching. So the fact that you can still get all of this data, even if you're really far away. We actually thought up of this in the pandemic. A lot of O&M one-to-one in-person stuff had to stop. But then how do you measure mobility when you're over Zoom? How do you know if someone's using that cane correctly? So for us, that remote training aspect and like virtual teaching really works well. Actually, a really nice example. Back in October, when we were first piloting an early version of AIM with pre-launch Smart Cane 2 units, our team traveled to Canada to the Vision Loss Rehab Center in Canada, the VLRC. And they had about over 50 O&Ms there. They went out, they did some data collection with their WeWALK Smart Cane, and then I was sat in a Starbucks in London. And they were like, all right, Jean-Marc, analyze the data. And I said, okay, challenge accepted. And on this live feed in front of all these O&Ms, I said, well, you did this, you went up here, you took a turn there, you kind of lost a bit of technique around that bend. What were you doing? But then you sort of pick that back up again.
That's amazing.
And it's really nice to criticize people from a distance because they can't.
I like that. That's just me. I like that. Should I get a job doing that?
No, but all jokes aside, I mean, and it was great. Like we were really able to pick up finite details, even though I was literally thousands of miles away. So that remote aspect is great, but it doesn't replace. It just empowers.
Yeah. Listen, I wish you all the best with this. You're doing a great job with what you're doing, and come back. Tell us more about what you're doing, the updates that are coming. Of course, I look forward to getting hands-on myself. And,
for sure.
You'll be hearing more about it on the show. But Jean-Marc, thank you as always for coming on to Double Tap.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. And thanks again for all the great questions. And what you guys are doing is great. Definitely giving us, again, as an organization of visually impaired people who just want to do good for our community, a lovely outlet to sort of talk about it and to, discuss
That's
all
kind. Thank you.
our projects. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
You.